So this is our new Olympic podcast. My name's David Luttrell. I'm a Brisbane-based broadcaster, and I'm going to be joined each and every time we do this by Chris Jones, the editor of the Courier Mail, Queensland's foremost. I'm just making stuff up now. What are you? Queensland's foremost newspaper.
I like it.
That's right.
Yeah, and you just keep winning the ratings here at Nova.
Yes.
Luttsy, look, it's so good to be here. And what I really appreciate today is that you've come out for the first Olympics podcast wearing your official Olympic torch relay shirt. The one that you wore
Theatre of the Mind.
21 years ago.
That's right, almost to the day. I don't even know that. That's complete rubbish. It was probably in early June or something like that. But I did run the Olympic torch in Finley.
Where's Finley?
It's a good question. It's just in Victoria, I believe. It could be New South Wales. I don't know. It's near Albury-Wodonga, I believe. Down
Down at Chuka
At Chuka That's it.
Yeah.
So I did get to do that 21 years ago. We met on the torch relay in Sydney. We travelled through Queensland covering it at one point for the Courier Mail for you and 4BC, the radio
4BC.
station I was working at the time. And here we are, 21 years later, still talking Olympic Games in our own backyard.
It's
Brisbane.
so exciting. I don't know if it would be as exciting as that day in Finley. Did the people of Finley turn out?
It was massive. It wasn't massive. It was on a back street of Finley. There was Spinifex. It was me. The federal police were. That was their job to protect me. I don't know what they were protecting me from. Spinifex, actually. They make us want to get whiplash from a Spinifex. But other than that, there was no one there to see it. They gave me a very quiet leg out the back, but it's framed at home now.
The torch?
Yeah, I took it out once last Christmas and tried to light it, but and do a lap of Boondall on Christmas night after a couple of beers. But that's it.
Does it still light?
You need a special canister to light them, Chris. There was talk of these canisters being around for about 2 years after the Olympics.
Yeah.
Some of the SOCOG staff apparently still had them.
Yeah.
They were made by Rexona, so I mean, there's no point. I mean, you could I wouldn't recommend trying it with a can of Rexona antiperspirant, but no, I just doused a cloth in some in some aviation fluid. And just lit it that way.
Does John Coates keep them?
I believe Coatesy has a number of them. And we should say, hopefully, he'll be one of the fine people we'll be speaking to on this podcast, because from this point forth, I did the math, just under 4,000 days till kickoff of the 2032 Olympic Games in Brisbane. And it's 11 years essentially, but the clock is ticking. We have the games, and it's showtime. Already we're seeing stuff starting to happen, Chris.
Look, it's really significant. That announcement in Tokyo that Brisbane is going to get the Olympic Games in 2032, I don't think you can understate just how important that is for Brisbane. You think back through those iconic moments, Luttsy, in our history. You think back to the 1982 Commonwealth Games with Matilda winking down there at QE2. You fast forward to Expo 88. They're moments in time that really changed our city and our region, the way we look at ourselves, and so much more. But they're just not even on a scale that will go close to competing with what these Olympics are going to be.
Yeah, and you're right. We've had some defining moments as a city or a town slash city, which has now become a city, that have sort of pushed us in the direction where we now sit. Sort of I'd like to call us on some level heading towards a cosmopolitan metropolis. But you can't really put a Commonwealth Games in the same league as an Olympic Games, and World Expo, as great as it was a 6-month event that certainly changed Brisbane. But this is the Olympic Games. This is the biggest event in the world. It's the biggest sporting event in the world, but I think it's probably, as far as all those key indicators like television and things like that, it's the biggest event in the world, and it's coming here.
Well, we had the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. I'm not sure if they changed Queensland dramatically. I think they set a new benchmark for closing ceremonies.
I think what it did exactly, it was next level in some strange way. But what it did was the same way that, for instance, Qatar started to host events years out before they bid for that World Soccer Cup, which they now have. But what it did was demonstrate that we have, the ability to put on a show without embarrassing ourselves, first and foremost, and then also I guess showed we have the existing infrastructure, which plays a big part in an Olympic bid these days. So it played its part, but this is an event which I think for the next 10 years is going to reshape the city in its entirety.
Totally, and it's a culmination of what has been a really long journey. You talk about the 80s. It was about then that the first Brisbane Olympic bid started. It was led by then Lord Mayor Sally Ann Atkinson.
Who we saw the other night at the Premier's official...
the matriarch
Olympic
of
dinner.
the Brisbane bid,
Yes.
it was being called.
So that was for the 92 games.
And, of course, young John Coates was part of that bid. But it was never going to happen. That was that was Juan Antonio Samaranch, and the fix was in, and it was sent to his home country and Barcelona. And I think, think about Barcelona and the impact the Olympics had on Barcelona of coming out of the shadow of places like Madrid and other parts of Spain. And the way I think also, Luttsy, that the word Olympics is now forever associated with the word Barcelona. And I think there's a real symmetry here between Barcelona and Brisbane, where we're not at the moment the top city, most well-known city in Australia.
Yeah.
But what the Olympics are going to do is is the spotlight will be on us, and I think you'll have that great moment going forward where that will always be known as Olympic City, because we're not famous, let's face it, for a lot else outside of outside of Australia. And think about those cities like Barcelona. What's the next word you think of? Is Olympics, or Munich, or Calgary, or dare I say it, Sochi. Yep. The next thing you think of is Olympics, and and that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hesitant to draw comparisons with other cities, because I genuinely think Brisbane's in a fairly unique situation, almost a perfect storm sort of situation for how this has come together, and I genuinely believe there's an opportunity to create the greatest Olympics ever, which is what has become the benchmark of what you want to achieve when you win these games. But you're right, Barcelona probably is the most similar in the fact that, and all those things you just mentioned, and hopefully we can leverage all those things and create something pretty special for Brisbane over the next 10 years and then beyond. As we go past the games.
Yeah, and I think there is a unique opportunity. Think about the lead-in. We're going to have Tokyo, we've just had, and then we've got Paris, and then we've got Los Angeles, where the Americans will stuff up another Olympics.
You're not confident?
Well, think back to Atlanta.
They did have a jetpack in LA, which we still don't have in our mainstream. I thought by now 84 had the jetpack guy. Yeah. I mean, I know the Brisbane Heat had it for
They did try
bit.
it. Yeah.
They did try, but I don't feel like we've evolved in there. I thought, by the time I'm 45, I'm going to be getting a jetpack to work. Wrong. I drive a Volkswagen. A nice Volkswagen. I want a bag Volkswagen.
What was he called at Brisbane Heat? Rocket Man,
I think, was the
so I think you can get a jetpack to work as long as you live no further from work than the other side of the Gabba.
Stadium. If you live in Section 22 and work at Square Leg, you're good to go for jetpacks. But other than those Gabba residents, you're pretty much gone. But you know what? The other point is, I think we've got to consider is, while the Olympic Games has historically been, I guess you could say until recent years, quite stagnant in its approach to, development. It's been a historical event, and now we've got breakdancing coming out. As an example, I mean, we had surfing, obviously, which is a bit of a breakthrough, yada yada. But I think in general terms, I'm pretty confident Paris and then Los Angeles are going to take us or expedite the process for the Olympics of moving it in a more modernised way, which is so in the next 8 years we're going to have two Olympics which are going to go, okay, wow, we're thinking outside the box here, and in a lot of ways that puts Brisbane in a lot of pressure following that to create something pretty super.
Well, let's talk about the sport then. So breakdancing, you mentioned. For some reason, Paris has introduced breakdancing. I don't fully know. As an Olympic sport.
I don't
Have you got any ideas of what Brisbane's contribution to the Olympic sport could be? Breakdancing?
Well, I mean,
it's very weird, isn't it?
Kangaroo Point cliffs, but I mean, that could be dangerous. I mean, I don't know.
Sport climbing up the Kangaroo Point.
No, I'm saying at the top of the cliffs is where we do the breakdancing. I don't know. I just feel like that, it's a nice view up there. It's all you need is a bit of cardboard. That's my memory of breakdancing is basically ripping open a 4X carton and using that as a base. So you don't need a great structure.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just spitballing.
It's near the Story Bridge Hotel for some cockroach racing.
It's near the Story Bridge, but I just don't know. I watched it the other night at the Premier's function. They had the breakdancing demonstration. You might have left by then with your son. Were you still there? You missed the breakdancing?
I left during the breakdancing. That was my cue.
It doesn't look like it's evolved much from my days at Aspley State School doing a backspin. That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but maybe I'm going to be completely wrong. Maybe it'll be the juggernaut that we're not expecting. Well, is that Paris? That's in 4 years?
That's Paris,
right,
yeah. But I think, to be fair, I think, evolution of sport, I'm not sure if the Greco-Roman wrestling has changed a lot.
Well, that's a good point.
Over the years.
Yeah, you're right, actually. So, yeah, that was someone stumbled across that early and was probably criticised on, well, not a podcast, but whatever the historical equivalent of a podcast
Parchment.
was. Is that what it was? So it was criticised back in the day, and it's stood the test of time. The Greco-Roman wrestling.
I can't wait for the surfing though at the Brisbane Games, because the great thing about the Brisbane Games will be that it's not just about showcasing Brisbane, it's about showcasing the whole region. Already the plan is that the marathon and the road cycling is gonna start and finish at Alexandra Headland. You imagine those views. You think about the beach volleyball, down there on the Gold Coast. I imagine the surfing will be down there too. It's not just going to be variations of views of the Brown Snake, the Brisbane River.
Yeah, okay.
It's a great opportunity to showcase the whole region.
It's a good point, because I think Tokyo, sort of the surfing there, didn't it? It was just looked like a rough day at Sandgate. I mean, it did, didn't it? That didn't look like a great venue. Not that there was any spectators there anyway, but if there had have been, they didn't really showcase that. I didn't feel like the rowing really showcased whatever Tokyo had to offer. They were sort of going
it was a funny sort of
train
spot.
bridges.
It was, wasn't it? And I looked it up, actually, the rowing. The background, there was literally trucks driving by. It looked like there was a highway behind it. There was. I looked it up. It was literally across from the rowing was the town tip. The city's tip was across from the rowing venue.
I mean, yeah, is that right?
Do you know where the plan is for the rowing for Brisbane?
No, that's one
dam.
It's a dam, like a good start.
Waiaralong Dam.
And where would that be?
Not 100%. Down near Boona.
I've been to Boona. I've slept in the showgrounds grandstand at Boona. Don't ask why. In fact, I've done it 3 years in a row. I did that. I actually have slept in the. It's nice out there.
Let's put that in podcast number 3 for the rundown.
Yeah, why was I showgrounds grandstand?
Boona showgrounds,
and it is cold in Boona. I'll give you that. But so, and speaking of locked in, you speak of that where the venues will be, and I know the Redlands has the Whitewater Park, if I can call it that, for kayaking, canoeing, that sort of business.
The Jessica Fox
Arena.
I
guess we call it that. But at this point, most of the venues have already been sort of locked and loaded, from what I'm told. There's not much give. Well, I've heard of talk of like Royal Queensland for the golf already kind of unofficially locked in, if you like.
I think this is one of the really interesting things about how this bid process has happened. Not only did it happen weirdly, nobody seemed to know that it was happening. It sort of happened very quietly, but it's what the IOC calls their new normal. And they've been stung over the years of these big white elephant infrastructure things that are left behind. The host city spends, in the case of Tokyo, billions of dollars. I think it was $15 billion they spent in Tokyo. And they're really stung about, the things like in Athens. Remember the pictures of the swimming pool that they used, and it's empty now and there's weeds growing out of it.
Yeah, it's an eyesore.
We waste all this money on 16 days of sport. So what the IOC wanted from the bid team from Brisbane was to do it as cheap as possible. And so the bid book goes through and it talks about all these existing venues. I mean, quite a few used for the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games that they've just reheated, as if that's going to be the case in another 11 years. I think that
seems sceptical.
Well, I am sceptical.
You're suggesting we are going to build more.
I think we need to, and I think that was a big part of getting it over the line. And now we're going to start to see, okay, well, what do we need? We already know that they're going to do a full, not only redevelopment of the Gabba, but they're going to tear the whole thing down and start from scratch. And let's see, at the Gabba, they need to actually lift it by a metre to get it all to line up with the new concourse from over Main Street there.
From the City Rail, across River Rail, rather, yeah.
Brisbane Live is going to be where the swimming is. That's a new indoor venue. It's like It's like the Boondall Entertainment Centre, but right there in Roma Street Parklands.
Right.
So you're going to see big changes to the city happen as a result of this, in terms of venues, let alone anything else.
And that will happen sooner rather than later, I guess, in a lot of respects. And it's not something that's going to happen in a decade. It'll probably happen more likely in the next 3 or 4 years. Or
this is also my concern, right? Like, it's 11 years, but that's not that long ago. That's 22, 6 months ago. I did the sums 11 years ago. You were 33.
Yeah.
11 years ago, Luttsy.
Geez, I was living exactly the same life. No, I mean, I'm not a good example of 11 years ago because I'm wearing the same clothes I was wearing. I was wearing this Olympic torch relay shirt 11 years ago to the day. Hey, look, we've got so much we want to talk about. When we come back, I just want to talk about where we'll head in this podcast because there's so many different facets of how it affects the people of Brisbane, first and foremost, which is the key stakeholders of this, the people that live here, and how it'll affect us moving forward, not only for 2 weeks in 2032, but also over the next 11 years. And all the other areas we need to talk about, infrastructure being one of them. There's millions of different areas that are going to affect our lives based off this decision with Brisbane hosting the 2032 Games. So we'll take a quick break, come back with more shortly. Yep, still just under 4,000 days to go since last time I told you that 15 minutes ago. But we're getting...
It's getting exciting, though, isn't it?
It's the start gun. We're the equivalent of a commentator going off half-cocked at the start of a marathon. Away! 42 kilometres to go! It's Jones and Luttsy! But we're going in straight off the bat, and we're getting the intensity levels up high because there's decisions already being made. There's venues already being decided. There's people already being elected, if that's the word, which is the important one because what's going to happen pretty quickly. Chris, you were telling me before we started recording today that this organising committee and other committees involved around the process of the games now are getting decided pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, part of the deal with the IOC was you needed to set up your organising committee within 6 months of the deal being done. And we're sitting here, mid-September, and it was 6-7 weeks ago. So there's almost 2 months gone in that. And and that organising committee needs to be set up. And I've been enjoying it, Luttsy, around town, actually. It's not, you can't sort of turn on Channel 7 and watch it. But the best sporting event in the world at the moment is the jockeying in Brisbane for positions on the Brisbane Olympic organising committee, which, as I say, needs to be set up by Christmas. There's already legislation in Parliament. And then what's going to be the best part of the sport, you talked about 50-50 before, and it's 50-50 funding between the feds and state, but it's also 50-50 on every decision. And so you're going to have to get Anastasia Palaszczuk and Scott Morrison to agree on one person to lead the organising committee. Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Because Scott Morrison adamantly came out and said, "Look, this isn't us just going, we're 50 of the funding. They want across the board. The feds want to be part of this, and it seems like they want it in every single facet, from venues, everything like that. My belief is the feds get 4 members on this board, and the state government gets 4 that they select as well. And then obviously you've got the eventual makeup will be somewhere around 20, 22 people as part of the organising committee. So have you updated your CV? My LinkedIn, it looks incredible right now. Yeah. Most of it's true, but no, it looks good. What do you say on there? What's your key attributes? Just my just the broad spectrum of my skill set. Mm-hmm. I think I use the term triple threat. I don't know what that means. What? I can dance. Are there 3? I can break dance. I can sing. I can't sing. That's a lie. And I can act. That's what I'm bringing to the table. Oh, look, I don't know. No disrespect, but it sort of feels a little bit like your entire career has been acting. Well, yes, correct. That's why I'm a single threat. I'm a one-trick pony. But seriously, it's like it's going to start happening, and the jostling has started. You can sing. I can. You've heard me sing, actually, in an Olympic environment. You've heard me sing. I have. Have you not? Do you want to tell the story? Well, yeah, because you were involved in it as well. Honestly, this could be completely wrong and different from your recollection because I was inebriated. But we were in Airlie Beach, Olympic Torch Relay 2000, karaoke night with SOCOG, with the organising committee, you, me, and various other representatives of the media. And I didn't remember what song I sung until I got back to Brisbane and was going past a work site. And for some reason, the guys in the workplace had Shania Twain, "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." And I went, "That's what I sung." You
Did I sing that with you?
You did. It was a duet. We sang it together. It was well after
makes perfect
midnight,
sense.
as you can tell. But we changed one word of man, I feel like a woman.
What did we change?
It was man, I feel like a torch.
Doesn't even rhyme. But I guess it made sense at
1 a.m. in Early Beach.
From memory, now you mention it, the SOCOG, the organising people loved it. Yes, and weeks later I got a torch leg, so it worked for me.
It paid off.
Yeah, it did.
And so you've got the organising committee. You've also got the coordination committee that they're going to set up, and that's the one that's going to do infrastructure. You think, what does the organising committee do for the next 5 years, really? They're organising a game that's in 11 years' time. The coordination committee is the one that will look after the infrastructure, and that's the one that needs to start going, okay, we literally have 22 6 months to get some stuff done, because this isn't just about spawning venues. The opportunity here for for the entire Southeast Queensland region is huge. We can get stuff done through using Olympics as the cover that we would never have otherwise been able to do. You talk about, think about
and quickly as well,
and because you've got this deadline. So you think about the second, highway to the Gold Coast.
The M1.
That's going to happen. That will happen as part of the Olympics.
Yep.
It's just necessary. A better rail connection up to the actual Sunshine Coast, not just to Nambour. How that plays out, they're arguing
not
over.
an adjoining bus from wherever Nambour, wherever the hell it is, right? Yeah.
So into Maroochydore or whatever. How that's going to happen and what it's going to be. They talk about fast rail or heavy rail. Don't know, but something like that'll happen. Someone at that event you were talking about the other night, they were from Toowoomba. They said we need fast rail to Toowoomba because we're going to have the football preliminaries.
That's right. Plus that massive...
I told them they might be dreaming.
Plus
maybe a chairlift.
Maybe the athlete village will have one in Toowoomba when it'll be that massive quarantine.
Maybe the Wagners.
The Wagners, yes.
They can build the athletes' village at Wellcamp where we can bus them down.
Well, there's an international airport there, isn't there, in Toowoomba? So
you just fly from that to Brisbane.
Yeah, that's it, straight through. But but you're right. I mean, this is all. But it's expediting that process as well. That's something which might have taken 20 years to get in the way, like the M1 to the Gold Coast. Will probably happen now over the next few years.
And then you come back to the venues themselves. I'm so excited about the venues, Luttsy. I don't know if I find that every 2 years when I watch an Olympics, summer or winter. There's certain sports I just get obsessed with, and I become that sort of instant expert, right?
Yeah.
Winter Games, I'm an instant expert in curling every 4 years. I am across the curling in great detail.
Yeah.
My summer one is the equestrian, right? Watching the horses go around, the dressage,
Yes.
I'm across it.
Yep. Horses reverse parking. Someone once said that dressage was like they just sort of prance and reverse park.
They sound like the sort of once in 4 year expert.
That's exactly
what I'm talking about. But for us, the equestrian's going to be, the cross country equestrian's going to be up there at Victoria Park.
Yeah, that excites me because that's been an area which we've known. The golf course was sort of on the way out. But what is that becoming? What is there a plan for it? And no one's really been talking about it. And I guess this is why.
Yeah, well, they've actually the golf course closed, the council's going to turn into a great big parkland, but they've been just hit pause on the design stage until the bid got through. And the reason is that they're going to design this park forever with the equestrian cross-country course in mind, so they don't plant a big tree.
That's a massive gum tree. Heritage-listed gum
the horse
tree.
needs to... I don't know the reverse park in the cross-country, but...
that's right, because it's got to be specific, obviously up to standards with world equestrian everything.
I mean, that's that's the great thing. Tokyo had these these venues that weren't able to really show off the scenery and the amazing city that it is, and so and that's what's going to be so exciting about about the Brisbane Games.
Yeah. So we spoke about the people. I mean, and over the next few weeks, or I guess the next few episodes at least, we'll hopefully be talking to some of the people who have already shaped where we got to at this point. But there's some key people, obviously, that hopefully will become involved internationally and Queenslanders. And I think it's fair to say that you'll see some just Australian people. I know that Peter Beattie has been very out there at the moment suggesting that this should not be just a parochial Queensland thing. We need to look out for talent across the country.
So
Peter Volandi's name's been popped up already. It's these people are popping
John
up.
O'Neill, Kieran Perkins, Kate Jones. There's There's sort of there's lots of names being thrown out. I love the idea of Peter Beattie, a man who built his political career on being parochial Queenslander,
I know, right?
saying we shouldn't be parochial Queenslander.
Yeah.
That's actually a very classic Peter Beattie move.
Yes, it actually is. Yeah, brilliant. But so when will we get an announcement on that chair, the chairman, what would it call, the chairperson of the Olympic Committee?
Yeah, well, like I say, before Christmas. But I actually think the most interesting person in Brisbane at the moment is Chelsea War, and she's the CEO over at the Queensland Academy of Sport. She was the director of performance at UK Sport leading into the London Games. And 2012. She was the one that redeveloped that whole elite athletic system in Britain. They did things where they'd go to schools and they'd literally just measure kids, measure their limbs.
Yeah, right.
And they'd say, you are born to be a rower.
Yep.
You've never sat in a boat, or you might be playing hockey or football or whatever. Come over to the rowing program. And they invested in not only, so they found the freaks, these kids who are just going to be naturally gifted, and then they invested in them.
Yep.
And took through to the success that they had in 2012. And she makes the point that we need to be doing the same here by 2028, because they need to have a taste of the Olympics in LA to be at their best in the Brisbane Games. You think, 11 years, 2028, 7 years ago, and you think about maybe a 22-year-old kid in 7 years. They're sort of 20, young adults, sort of your mental age.
Yes,
I'd say 22, Luttsy.
That's what we should
and you take 7 years off that, and you get to 15-year-old. Your mental age after 2 beers.
Yes. by 11 p.m. mental age. Yeah.
But you can see,
you're right.
You can see through the London the runway that gives, and you think of our result in Rio was as a nation was quite disappointing. It was our worst games for a while, and the lead in from Rio into the Brisbane Games is the same as the lead in for the UK from Atlanta into London. So Atlanta, you rewind to Atlanta. The British Olympic team came 19th in the medal tally at Atlanta. 19th. They won
how many gold?
1 gold medal.
Oh, my God.
Who won that gold? Do you remember? It was 1996,
it was
UK.
It was rowing, wasn't it?
Rowing.
The great.
Yes.
The great Steve Redgrave.
You're all over it. And Matthew Pinsent in the pairs rowing. But 1 gold medal.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
One gold medal for the for the UK team, and then they put this program in place. And I think they were third at their home game 16 years later. So that is our runway out of Rio into Tokyo, Paris, LA. You got to have them in LA so that they can be at their peak in Brisbane. And that's the sort of stuff that Chelsea War is going to be leading. And and so what she needs is support from governments to really get in and fund that. And back in the task that's ahead of her. And
she'll certainly be someone we'll be chasing in the coming episodes, Chelsea War, to have on the podcast as well. As episode 1 draws to a close, and I've got to say, Chris, I don't know if I'm going off way too early here, but I've been having trouble sleeping at night thinking about concepts and ideas again, how I can put my 2 cents worth in. For instance, either the opening or the closing ceremony, my idea is, given that we now know we have an athlete village at Hamilton, at North Shore, the athletes, in my mind, this was at 10 o'clock 2 nights ago, not being able to sleep. My mind is we take them via a flotilla of CityCats. Or
no way.
Yes,
that is,
or whatever the next generation of CityCats are. We're talking
triple decker CityCats
who knows
by 2032
by then. Down the river, so the people of Brisbane, either opening or closing ceremony, don't have to be in the stadium, the Gabba, if you can't afford the tickets or can't get there, or obviously we can't all fit in the Gabba. So you can line the banks of the Brown between Hamilton and somewhere near Kangaroo Point. Haven't worked out logistically how we get them off the CityCats over the cliff.
Do the CityCats need to stop at all stops along the way?
It wouldn't hurt. Maybe a couple of pubs.
Oh, yeah, like Howard Smith Walk?
Closing ceremony, maybe not opening ceremony.
Okay, so they get to Kangaroo Point. Yeah, I like it.
And then there's some sort of, again, it's 11 years from now, there'll be some sort of transportational device which will get them up onto Main Street. And then...
Like chairlift?
A chairlift, that sounds good. That'll work. Or maybe CityCats are aqueducts by then. Maybe the CityCats get on legs like Transformers and climb the cliff and get up onto Main Street and then let the athletes off. And the athletes walk down Main Street waving. I'm talking flag bearers at this point, flag bearers.
Yeah.
Down Main Street. There'll be people hanging off the roof of the Pineapple Hotel.
Oh.
And that weird hotel across the street where the police always seem to be on lookout. I don't know what goes on there. But, all the way down there and then into the Gabba for the fantastic...
For the first 18-hour...
Yes, yeah, you're right.
Ceremony
maybe the closing ceremony because the athletes will be exhausted if they do that at the opening.
Well, then
ceremony.
they could stop for some
and then
beers
on
the
beers.
way home.
Pineapple, Storybridge Hotel. There's a number of iconic hotels on that.
Pineapple, Storybridge Hotel, Howard Smith Wharves,
Portside,
and then get the CityCat going upriver. Go to the new casino.
It has to end at the casino. I think that's fair. But my point is, I'm thinking about it already. It's taking headspace, and it's exciting.
I feel like you're overqualified to be the president of BOCOG, the organising committee. Is
that what Sebastian Coe said? I'm presuming he has the same problems I had: inability to sleep and a half decent athletic record. I'm basically Sebastian Coe. But I don't know. It's exciting and it's happening, and it's you're excited, aren't you? You're excited as a Brisbaneite.
Oh, look, Luttsy, that I don't use this term often, and I don't use it cheaply.
I know there's one of five you're going to use here because yes.
But I feel like these games are going to be torturific.
Torturific? Okay. I mean, this is going to be an entirely different episode of the podcast is how we do the torch relay. Because we could easily, you and I could easily be the heads of the torch relay because we've got history with torch. Shania Twain would definitely be involved.
Karaoke every night.
Every night there's karaoke.
And the torch relay starts its journey after 10 a.m.
Yes, that's a good point because those 7 a.m. starts really got to me after a night in Airlie Beach. But people of Brisbane, this is, as we've discussed, infrastructure and all these big fancy words. But at the end of the day, this is an event which the people of Brisbane can celebrate and hopefully enrich their lives over the next 10 years. And that's the important thing. Hopefully we can, as this podcast develops, Chris, we can discuss what's in it for the people here that live here, because they are very important components in
We didn't talk about the people, did we?
We didn't talk about the people. But it's only one podcast. With the people, we need to discuss how...
So episode 3 is the sleeping in the Boona Showgrounds stand. Episode 2 might have to be about the people.
The people. Yeah, that could work.
Oh, I think we should get John Coates on.
Maybe get John Coates on at some point. He seems important as well. But anyway...
Look, I'm excited. Look, it's seriously the Brisbane Olympics and the lead up to it. It's going to be gold, Luttsy.
Yes.
With the eyes of the world on
us,
Brisbane.
On Brisbane. On us, on this podcast and Brisbane. And that's what the Olympics is all about. What are you laughing at? That was a genuine thing, all right? This is what the Olympics is all about. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.